With plenty of fine, sunny autumn weather, Phil has made good progress constructing the Lancastrian horse, and, as you'll see, the day we filmed was no exception.
Where we're up to at the moment is substantially the rear or hind half of the horse is complete really now, which involves the spine has been raised, that's the core of the structure. The hip piece, cross piece, nearly 1 metre long, has been notched, jointed in, and there's two big 14mm bolts holding that joint together. Then the next stage then was to hang off or attach the two hind legs with the big curve up and the hock at the back, get everything turned just so it's the correct sort of angle. Time to compare with the maquette, the model. So what you're seeing here is just this back half, the hip piece, two back legs, and also we've got in the two, I'm calling them rump pieces, these struts that form the structural triangle here, which will prevent the legs that are unable to flex now that way. And of course the tail separately jointed on. So all the joints are sort of lap joints. There's a notch cut in one member, and the joining member sits in that notch, and then you secure that with a single 14mm stainless threaded rod right through the whole lot, and nuts tightened on. I'm quite chuffed with this back. I keep going on about it. This back set of components where they all come together. The end of the spine is here, the spine piece, which is just over 3 meters long overall. So, and then the tail separately, they meet a sort of, I suppose it's almost like a scarf joint is one term that's used in timber building. This face cut in the spine is actually angled down, and there's a corresponding angled face on the tail, so they sit together lying at that sort of angle with bolts across, which will prevent, because they're sitting at an angle, rather than like that they can slip in relation to each other, but like that gravity is pushing them together, aided by two hefty bolts. Then on the outside, the two rump struts braces are notched in under the spine, and I've been able to get a single drilled hole right through the whole lot. So there's about 500mm bolt, and everything's nipped up tight. Actually that has slackened in the last day or so. Yeah, so the whole process with both of the structures, and you can see in the background the finished Victory Yorkist horse, both of them in this fine weather. The drying and seasoning process is continuing, which is good. Hear that? There was a good old click as the timber's drawn together and the joints really snug into each other. So yeah, it did, as usual. It involved careful shaping, then stepping back just to see if we've got the overall form right. I still need to do a small amount of shaping on this right hand offside rear strut, the rump strut. I think I need to resolve just a little more subtle curve, really, a nice sweep. Then that should be it. Maybe the odd bit of nipping off angles here and there on the tail and whatever. So basically the tail is hanging free off the back, but it's got a good resting joint, as I said, and two good bolts through it. Let's nip that one up. Yeah, creaking away. So yeah, so we can, you've got the overall view of it. So then the next stage will be to drag over the two front legs that are sitting across near the York horse, and we'll drag them over one by one and establish that support at the front. Then we can take out these temporary scaffolding poles. The horizontal scaffold pole is really a method of registering the spine in this side to side aspect. So here you see it's trapped, because I noticed when I would bring up the back leg, say, and you drop it in heavily against the spine, you would sometimes get a slight shift sideways. So it's just getting everything placed. But as I say, this end of the horse is now fully self-supporting, so the scaffold pole isn't actually doing any weight bearing, load bearing. But we'll leave him for a short while until we've got the two front legs on. Let's get back to the model. Yeah, so obviously next, as I say, will be the two front legs, 3+ meters, 3.5 meters long maybe, and then these two belly pieces. Then final stage is the three. That's going to be tricky, the whole of the head and neck assembly. I'm going to have to create these very accentuated neck curves, which will have to be composite pieces. There's no such thing, well, maybe in the world somewhere there's a piece of that shape, but I ain't found it. So we're going to have to composite from at least two pieces with scarf lap joints to create that. Okay, yeah.
On reflection, Phil is not happy with the shape of one piece.
It's this strut here. I want to render that curve a bit more subtle. So it'll involve me chasing down that side with the chainsaw, maybe a little bit of work on this one. But very brief. I might do it off that scaffold behind, lower the platform and lean in and slice down, yeah. It's the sort of thing I'll need to, yeah, it needs a lot of concentration, then I don't go and cut the wrong bit. I'll move the scaffold and I'll have to put my chainsaw togs on.
We've seen Phil using different tools, but most often a chainsaw. Is it his most useful tool? And does he enjoy using it?
It's the quickest, it's the least pleasant to use by far. It's a noisy, dangerous, heavy thing, but it shifts wood like nobody's business, you know, that's the idea. With such hard resistant wood as oak, it's the only way really, unless you had hundreds of years. The gouges and that I've used them here and there to get in the jointing to get a finer finish. Yeah. But it's part of the nature of the, probably we said earlier, it's part of the nature of the sculpture is to have that rough sawn finish really. And then people who look at the thing, they'll make up the whole picture themselves. They'll tie everything together and say, oh yes, medieval battle, hopefully. But yeah, it's they're awful things, chainsaws. But people have said, oh, if they'd invented them today, they wouldn't be allowed to use, you know, because they're so inherently dangerous. Hence, you have to tog up and all the gear. That's better. More even sweep now, matching the other one. I quite like the way they these two members, they almost meet under the spine there. That's quite nice, a good sense of them supporting the back end, the weight of the tail, and then they sit down into these joints. Yeah, I don't know if you pick these up. This basically is notched into this leg, and likewise on the other side. So he's gone in about 3 or 4 inches, so gravity's going to cause it to sit down into that notch, and then they could hold a bolt through that. Some fine finishing on the hooves I'll need to do, but I'm not going to do that yet. I'm happy with the general thickness, I think, of the legs. They're around about 300mm foot thick. She matches the first horse. Maybe minor shaping here and there, but I think that's probably best left till the whole thing is mapped in. One piece affects the other, so it's best to keep a general view of things. Just going to do a single bit of cutting here where I can reach, just to sweep this piece into the leg a bit more. I'll leave it at that.
The next stage is to fit the front legs, and then 2 pieces that make up the barrel or belly of the horse. Please look again soon to see how Phil is progressing. Thank you for watching.